slightly different as far as the format is concerned. So all the baby stuff behind me, you can see. So I'm busy at the moment in my personal life. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I didn't want to book in any podcasts of anybody right now, just because expecting a child, and some other things with like my hernia surgery and that kind of stuff, which we'll touch on in a bit. So today I'm gonna just be on my own. I recently requested some questions on my Instagram story, and I got a few responses, a little bit more than a few, but I got a few responses that were particularly interesting that I want to discuss today. So what we're going to do first, because I've been given a topic by one of my followers, Dan. So he requested a while ago that I do an episode potentially with somebody, discussing the things that maybe aren't so great about the fitness industry. I'm then going to discuss things that I think are very good about the fitness industry versus my experience of other sports or just other walks of life that have affected me in one way or another. So let's start off with the what I don't like so much about the fitness industry. So, ooh, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really thought it through. This is kind of my whole strategy with this podcasting thing and speaking on video. I like it to be as organic as possible. So, yeah, I haven't really thought it through, but the first thing that came to mind when I thought about it when the question was asked to me was how do I say it? Recreating the wheel. Recreating the wheel. I think there's so many people in the fitness industry in general. They try to not necessarily discount what the old school way is, especially I'm gonna say particularly with training. Particularly with training is what I'm discussing at the moment, yeah. With training, I feel like the bench, deadlift, squat, the heavy barbell rows, heavy dumbbell rows, flipping leg press, all of that kind of stuff, shoulder pressing, dumbbells, barbells, iron, yeah, free weights, iron. Obviously, you've got machines in there for your lat pull downs, body weight pull ups, all these other things. You've got all these things that you can do from Arnold's time, which is what I'm really talking about, Arnold Schwarzenegger's time. Even traveling into Ronnie Coleman's time, the early 2000s, well, late 90s, early 2000s, I would say for the most part, the most successful bodybuilders, they were doing the simple things at an expert level consistently, which is what I always preach with my content on Instagram or anywhere. It's about doing the simple things at an expert level. The simple things will give you basic results if you do it at a beginner's level. If you know how to connect well with a movement, if you know how to get the most out of a movement using intensifiers or your set patterns, how you structure your sets, how many reps per set, blah 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 blah. You can get so much out of a very simple movement before you even think about putting up the weight. Yeah. These are the things that I think understanding is lost with the newer generation, natural and enhanced athletes, because everybody wants everything yesterday. And it's like none of the great bodybuilders, not, oh, good, had promise in his first year bodybuilder. I mean, great bodybuilders, because the ones who had promise in their first year, like Phil Heath, like Jay Cutler, they came out of the ranks, out of the amateur ranks, basically expected to win the Olympia. Those guys are the guys that applied the simple things consistently over a period of time at an expert level, and then they ended up being great. They weren't great overnight. They were good overnight, but they weren't elite legends, legendary status overnight. These things take time. So when I see, especially, again, I ain't trying to dig anybody out, but you see people, you're not built like a champion. You don't look that good. You've got a six-pack. You've obviously got some muscular development compared to an average gym goer or just a person who doesn't even go to the gym. Obviously, you're impressive to those guys. But within the realm of what we are, which is competitive bodybuilders at the highest level, you look at these guys and you're like, yeah, you're good, but you lack so much to be a real problem on stage. Now, this influencer line that gets crossed often between bodybuilder and influencer, that's something else that annoys me, but I don't want to go off on that tangent yet. You can be a great influencer with 1 million followers on social media and this and that and this and that, and you can be a shit bodybuilder. Those two things can happen. One is not mutually exclusive with the other. Just because you're a great influencer doesn't make you a great bodybuilder. Just because you're a great bodybuilder doesn't make you a great influencer. You might not have a captivating personality. Your content might not be consistent. Blah 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 blah. It goes both ways, and I'm not knocking either. If you're an influencer, big up to you. I enjoy watching influencers' content. I think it's great. But what I don't think is great is when an influencer with an average body, enhanced or otherwise, it doesn't matter. You got an average body and you're telling people you don't have to deadlift. You're telling people you don't have to squat. You're telling people that you don't have to bench press. Now, I have said before, I don't bench press. I've never really free weight bench pressed consistently. I'm going to say I've never really done it. I think I've done it maybe 6 times in my entire lifting career. I've been lifting. November 4th will be 7 years I've been lifting. So 7 years, I've probably done less than once a year. I've probably barbell bench pressed less than once a year. So I'm not going to go out there and say that you have to do these things to be good, but I'm genetically inclined to have a good chest. So I found other ways that I find more enjoyable but equally effective. Or I wouldn't say equally because I've never run barbell squats to say barbell bench press to say whether it's going to be equally effective. But I found things that help me progress anyway. And they help me progress at a rate that is the same rate or quicker than everything else that I'm doing. My legs are improving well. My chest is improving well. My back is improving well. My arms are improving well. My shoulders are improving well, blah, 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 blah. So you have to weigh up, cool, what sort of progress am I seeing out of these collection of movements versus the others? This works for me. But you're never going to hear me say, don't barbell bench press. You're never going to hear me say you don't have to do it to be elite. Some people do. I know people who have great body parts all over their body, not so much of a great chest, and they introduce barbell bench press, and it works for them. And I'm not going to say, oh, well, the reason it works for you is because of this and that and this and that. I think a movement's just a movement. It's how you execute the movement. I can give you the best training plan ever, with all the best movements in it, simple or complex or a mixture of both. And if you execute everything wrong, you're obviously not going to get the most out of it. So I think the new school guys, because that's typically who it is, it's not the old school guys coming out and reinventing the wheel. The new school guys who are looking to basically add some shock factor to their content, I ain't going to hate too much. I understand the game is the game, but you've got younger guys now coming in with incomplete body parts because they feel like it's not a necessity to bench or some close alternative squat or some close alternative deadlift. There's no real alternative to deadlifting, in my opinion. I think the explosion of the movement is very specific to deadlifts. Yes, you can RDL, but you're not exploding from the floor as you are with a deadlift, conventional deadlift. That's just my opinion. Again, I'm not arguing with anybody. You know what I mean? There's no one else here. So I'm not going to argue with you. That's just my opinion. And if you have different opinions, comment below, send me a DM on Instagram, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so that'll be the first thing, just to summarize it. People reinventing the wheel, trying to put out content that is clearly an inferior movement, but you want to be relevant. So you're saying that it's just as good when it clearly isn't. If you're going to show me an elite bodybuilder who started doing whatever you've suggested from the get-go, and then they've become great doing that, then I'll shut my mouth. Oftentimes what you find is someone's great already, like Kai Green. Kai Green does a lot of light dumbbell curls, for example, for his biceps. That's all well and good when you're already 300 pounds in the off season. To say this is what you need to do to have big arms, it's like, not really. Because if you were 120 pounds and you do 6 kilo dumbbells every single week, you're not getting Kai Green's arms. I'm sorry, you're not. There's going to have to be some collection of movements to create a stimulus consistently for you to get to that level. Then to maintain what you have or make slight improvements or refine what you have, then maybe some 6 kilo dumbbells will be fine. But I'm sorry, you're not building that level of muscle doing these frilly little movements. That's for me anyway. For me, I'm like, not really having it. To be fair, this one isn't really personal to the fitness industry because I played football and I follow football still. I'm massively into football. I follow pages of footballers and all this kind of stuff. So I see like fan response, a lot of fan response. I watch podcasts about football and all this kind of stuff. I'm fully into it. So it's not specific to bodybuilding, but what I will say is specific to bodybuilding. People are, especially the athletes. So the athletes, I know the fans are sometimes a problem, but athletes are so sensitive in bodybuilding. I've never seen anything like it. For guys and males, females, whatever, for people who are supposed to be so strong-willed to get through prep time after time after time, dig a hole into a place where no one else goes. I understand that MMA fighters and that water deplete and all this kind of stuff. It's probably just as tough. When you're literally sitting for anything from 16 on average, obviously 16 to 30 weeks, 16 to 35 weeks, your whole life has to change to accommodate this thing that you want to do, this one day where you stand on stage. I think for all the mental toughness it takes to do that well, time after time after time after time, just so sensitive. I've had conversations with people. You comment on somebody's physique, bearing in mind this is what we're doing, yeah, and I'm your peer. I'm not going to say I've had people direct to me make comments because I haven't, but I've been very close to people who have made comments about other people that I know within the bodybuilding industry, and they're just so it's just like so petty. You for example, if you look at my Instagram, yeah, you're gonna see like I critique myself on my Instagram. I've had people critique me in the comments of some of my posts saying, like, it depends how you say it, obviously, and I'll get onto that, but it depends. That's more of a fan thing. That's not usually the athlete. If an athlete said to me, yeah, I'm talking to an athlete, and an athlete, or I post something, and an athlete comes in my DMs and I ask his opinion or her opinion, and he or she says, I think you need better arms because I talk about my arms all the time. Oh, Gene, by the way, maybe you should try and do this because I've seen that, yes, your arms are improving, but if you try this, it might get better. I'm the type of person, the reason I've improved so quickly is because I like to listen and learn. And I will listen and learn from anybody who has valuable information. And the only way you can determine whether someone has valuable information is by listening to what they have to say and reflecting upon it or putting it into practice and seeing what happens. I've had Gen Pop gym goers, people who don't compete, have no desire to compete, tell me, oh, you should try this. They might have obviously seen it from whoever they've seen it from, but all of our knowledge comes from somewhere. You know what I mean? It all comes from somebody else. Most of it, not all of it, but most of our information is passed down from somebody else, whether it be a book, whether it be a podcast, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on the internet somewhere, whether it be through conversation, whatever. The majority of what we learn about anything in our lives is passed down through somebody else, whether it's your parents, whatever, teachers, colleagues at work. It doesn't really matter. So I don't know what nugget of information that person could be giving me. And I'm not too big, not too arrogant, not too egotistical to not at least give you time of day to try and improve me. Because I'm not going to sit there and listen to a 1 hour long spiel about what I should and shouldn't be doing. But at the same time, if you're seeing me do something, you say, oh, I've seen you've done this, you should try this because I think this worked for me. And I say, all right, cool, I might try it next time. If I forget, I forget. But if I genuinely try, if I genuinely remember, I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna try that, see what happens. Some of it's shit, some of it's good. So I've learned so many things off of general people that I'm like, oh shit. Either they've tried it just by chance or they've heard it from somebody else. And it's been incredibly useful for me. So I'm gonna use it for the stage. Like I think that is that's something that's something that's lost. I think people get to a point where they say they're not arrogant, they say they're humble, they say they're not egotistical, but you give them one bit of critique or information, even. It doesn't even have to be critique. It could be like what I just said. People just offering you information, but they're not to a level that you think is worthy to be giving you tips and advice. And you get your back up. And suddenly that person's a problem to you because they shouldn't be telling me anything because look at me and look at them. And I think that's something that I've found in bodybuilding specifically that's a problem. In football, you can have a conversation. When I used to play football, if I one thing I wasn't good at for a very long time because of my mental toughness was finishing. I was a striker slash winger, or winger slash striker, I should say. And I struggled with one-on-ones with the goalkeeper and that kind of thing because I used to get so nervous in front of the goalkeeper. You can give me the ball at the halfway line. I was quick and very skillful. I'll run past 4 or 5 people, one after the other. But as soon as I got in front of the goalkeeper, that same mentality, that same confidence I had on the halfway line isn't there 12 yards out from the goal. I just didn't really have it. So when I used to have conversations with people, my peers, my brothers, my cousins, whatever, we all play football. Some of us at higher levels than others, whatever. Yeah, we're all different levels. I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to ask questions. How can I do this? Well, how can I get over this mental barrier? After I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months of having these conversations, a few things clicked internally, and I was like, do you know what? You might be right. I think I know what I can do now. Every game, just getting a little bit more confident in front of goal. Every game, just getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. This camera, by the way. Sorry. Right. Yeah, just getting a little bit better each time. And eventually, I my last season playing football before I got my big injury that I just decided to hang up the boots and start bodybuilding. Well, not bodybuilding, but going to the gym. I scored 16 goals in 9 games. Bearing in mind, before then, I was probably getting 10 in 25-ish in a full season, maybe 10 in 25, 10 in 30. Which is why I was a winger instead of a striker, because although I was good carrying the ball and doing all these other things, the mental strength it took for me to just clear my nerves and strike a ball in front of a goalkeeper, for some reason, I always struggled. I, to this day, don't really understand why. It didn't really make sense. The point I'm making is some of the best advice I got was from people who weren't as good as me. And they weren't even playing at my level. They're playing Sunday mornings. I was semi-professional. They're playing Sunday mornings. I'm playing on a Saturday afternoon, getting paid to play. And I'm taking advice from people who just had a clearer view of what reality was. In all honesty, like I had all the talent to score past the goalkeeper, like it's 12 yards out. But sometimes you need that information, and sometimes I don't think it matters who that information comes from. I think right is right and wrong is wrong, and I think valuable information is valuable information. That's just how I am. That's just how I'm wired, and that's why I think one of the biggest reasons why I've become so successful in bodybuilding so quickly. Everyone's going to point their finger and say genetics. Yeah, well, you're genetically gifted. You're this. You're that. You're this. Yeah, that's great. There's so many people out there that are genetically gifted, more so than me, but they don't listen. They think they know everything. They think they're better than people. They don't think they can be critiqued in general, let alone by somebody who isn't better than they are. And this is where their downfall is, because they don't listen, they don't learn. A lot of the reasons I've adapted my training, there are a lot of the reasons that I've managed to find ways nutritionally to maximize my nutrition while enjoying it. Just little things, being able to have balance in my social life, these sorts of things. It's from listening to people. It's from listening to what people have to say, not just my coach, not just the other top bodybuilders that I'm aware of, not just watching IFBB pros on YouTube talk about this and that and this and that. Some of it is just from talking to a random person in the gym. They ask me what I eat, I tell them, and they say, "Oh, have you ever had this?" Nah, where'd you get that from? Oh, Lidl. All right, I'll go down there, have a look, try it. I'm like, flipping, no, this is great. Macros ain't bad either. I didn't even know this existed. Let me start using that. You so much valuable information out of people, and the bodybuilding scene, generally speaking, very, very sensitive. You can't really say anything um that goes against anyone else's opinion or comment on somebody's physique, bearing in mind the whole reason we bodybuild is to be judged. That's literally the sport. The sport of bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding, is to be judged by a panel of 5 to 7. That's literally our entire thing. So the irony in the fact that you can't take critique generally is poor level, in my opinion. But yeah, that'll be another thing. And just to lead on to the fan aspect, not just the athlete aspect, I've had people message me on YouTube in my comments, Instagram sometimes. Oh, stop saying you're natural. You're not natural. Okay. So you can't know whether I'm natural or not. Let me just start there. Yeah. So I'm telling you I'm not natural. You don't know me. You have no inclination to believe me. I respect your opinion. Not your opinion. I respect your right to voice your opinion. And your opinion is that I'm lying and that I'm not natural. Fine. Yeah. You've come to my social media, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, whatever. You've come to my social media. I'm putting out information that isn't specific to naturals or enhanced guys. Most of the time, I'm talking about training. Anyone can train. Anyone can train. Whether you're physically, as long as you're physically capable, anyone can train. So being natural or not being natural is irrelevant as far as my content is concerned. I stand on bodybuilding stages for the BMBF. I have stood on a stage for the UKDFBA, and I've been tested every single time I've stood on stage. What you're saying is that these governing bodies who basically are specialists in testing, urine testing, polygraphs, lie detectors, all of this stuff. For some reason, you think I'm Jason Bourne and I can just be out here in these lie detector tests, just beating lie detectors. I will never understand it. I'll never understand the logic that, or the lack of, that goes into getting to a conclusion that we're just out here just comfortably cheating lie detector tests. They're also not cheap. So if they're a formality, they wouldn't be done. That's my opinion anyway. So there's all these layers that you've got to break down, and it all comes from the fact that you've seen my physique and you've gone, he can't possibly be natural because of the way he looks. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a specialist in any sort of mental health training. I think that's your hang up. You've come on my social media and you've taken the time to not give constructive criticism, not open up a dialogue for conversation. You've come to put a hateful comment is strong, but a negative comment on my social media, which I didn't ask for. I didn't ask for your opinion on whether I'm natural or not. You've decided that that's something that you want to voice, and you decided to do it publicly, because you could have privately messaged me that on my Instagram. Every YouTube video I put out, I've got an Instagram handle at the bottom. You can come and direct message me. It's fine. You know what I mean? But you've decided to do that publicly. For what reason, I don't understand. Most of the time, the accounts are blocked. Not blocked, private. Most of the time, there's no DM. What's photo anyway? I can't remember the acronym that I'm trying to use. I'm having a mind blank at the moment. But yeah, they have no photo on their Instagram. I don't sweat it. I don't sweat it. I've never really had people who are actual real people who are open, posting, that kind of thing, say that, oh, you're not natural, you're a liar, you're this, you're that, you're this, yeah. But I'm sure that's coming later down the line. I'm sure that's coming. So that's a thing that annoys me with fans. I understand that there are cheaters out here. I understand that there are people who are lying to sell their ebooks and lying to sell this and that and this and that. I have no gain from it. I think the fact that I'm tested to compete should be enough. And if it isn't enough for you, don't follow me. Don't follow me. Don't watch my stuff. Don't like my stuff. Don't do anything. Just go, don't like him. He's not telling the truth, in my opinion. I'm gonna cut him from my life. I don't understand. I'll never understand it. I've never got so angry at, for example, football again. I've never got so angry at a football match that I think I'm going to voice my opinion to this professional football player about what I think. You don't think they know how to do their job? Everyone has off days. Everyone, you know what I mean? You've gone out of your way to give unconstructive, just negative hate comments. That's one thing I'll just never understand. Anyway, I don't want to waffle on about that too much more. They're the negatives that I'm going to stick on today because they personally affect me. I know there are loads of like general stuff within the fitness industry that aren't great, but I think so many of them also, because they are so general, they can spread across loads of different walks of life. So yeah, that's my take on the negatives anyway. Just because the fitness industry has done a lot for me. And I enjoy bodybuilding. I enjoy aspects of bodybuilding more so than aspects of football when I played it. There's so much that have molded me into a better person for my day-to-day life at work, and just even little things like as a husband, and just having balance and like structure, creating a structure in my life. I think I owe it to the fitness industry at least to not counter those points, but give my positives as well. So one major positive, like I said, bodybuilding as a whole, it's definitely added structure, mental toughness, just a more measured approach to life. I feel like when I was a lot younger, I was still quite sensible, don't get me wrong, but I didn't control my emotions as well as I do now. I didn't think things through as well as I do now. When I played football, I was quite a lot more volatile. It's obviously a more highly passionate sport. You'll go play. There's 11 other guys. Sorry, there's 10 other guys on your team alone. Then you're against a bunch of other guys, and again, things get heated. Things get things get aggressive, let's say. I don't want to go too far into it, but things get aggressive and you end up being around different situations that aren't necessarily beneficial to your development as a young man. I was in teams that had a lot of violence and stuff in general, just because of my borough and where I'm from and that kind of stuff. A lot of our games got abandoned and all the rest of it. So transitioning into bodybuilding, where you go into a gym, especially when I first began, I was headphones in, didn't speak to anybody. No one knew who I was in the gym. I was so new, obviously. I didn't have a striking physique because I played football. So although I was ripped and stuff, I used to wear stuff like I wear stuff now. Everything kind of was baggy. You couldn't really tell what I looked like under my clothes. I would always wear hoodies and that kind of thing. So there was no reason for anybody to talk to me because I'd kind of keep myself to myself. And I didn't have a striking physique that would lead anyone to like break my focus to speak to me. So going into that environment and thinking, do you know what, Gene, you answer to yourself. Not only do you answer to yourself, your wins and losses are down to you because you're the one that has to take yourself to the gym. You're the one that has to lift the weights that you know you should be lifting. You're the one that has to eat the food that you know you need to be eating. You're the one that has to go to sleep at a reasonable time because you have to then train the next day. You don't have other people to kind of bail you out when you're in trouble. Obviously, the team aspect of football is great for a lot of people. I will admit, I wouldn't say I'm an introvert. I've had these personal conversations before. I'm definitely not. Well, I am introverted, but like not in the way that again on social media I see people thinking that introvert means. Introvert does not mean recluse. A recluse is somebody who stays in their house and doesn't speak to anybody and doesn't socialize and doesn't do anything. I'm not a recluse, but I am definitely instinctually introvert. I am very comfortable and quite happy. Like I'm made happy by having my own space, my own time in a quiet space where I can just do what I want to do. That's how I'm wired. So coming from football where you have to manage and accommodate so many different personalities to get to your common goal of winning. Obviously, in bodybuilding, it's completely different. You're literally it's just you, and your wins and your losses are your wins and your losses. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I have a coach. Yes, OPO is a massive part of this process. huge part. I always tell him it's a team, we're a team. But ultimately, he gives me my orders during prep. He gives me my orders. Gene, this is what you need to do, training wise, food wise. Go do it. It's up to me to do it. It's up to me to implement. You know what I mean? Like, he can give me a bad training plan, a bad nutrition plan. I still have to go and do it. He can give me a good one or a bad and a good one, a good training plan, and a good nutrition plan. I still have to do it. So ultimately, it comes down to me and what I'm gonna put into doing it. Yeah. So that's something that I thoroughly enjoy. I know there's a lot of people who don't like that level of accountability, and that's fine. People are wired differently. Sometimes you need just that feeling of a safety blanket. Although you're just like me, you still have to do it all on your own. The feeling that you have other people to help support you, I think, again, it's not a bad thing. I just think people are wired differently. And for me, when I get home on prep, when I get home and no one's watching, doors are closed, windows are shut, curtains are closed, and no one can see what I'm doing, I'm still being a champion bodybuilder. That's what I'm doing. I'm eating the things I should be eating. I'm sleeping. I'm going to sleep the times I should be going to sleep. I'm prepping my meals. I'm doing all those things. I don't need external influence to tell me to do those things. It's just the way I'm wired. There are other people who need external influence to do those things, but they have that support system. They have a sibling, they have a parent, they have a spouse, they have a roommate, they have somebody around them that is like, make sure you do this when you get home, make sure you're doing that, make sure you stick to the plan, stay on it, keep doing your thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Don't think there's anything wrong with it. But to get back to my original point, that's one thing in particular that I found I really like about bodybuilding in particular, not necessarily the fitness industry, but bodybuilding in particular. It allows me to be me, and it allows me to take accountability for my success and my failure. And it has very little to do with anybody else. Obviously, I'm very lucky that I have the best coach in the UK. But you know what I mean? He's got a job to do, but at this point, he knows my physique so well. I know my physique so well. Between the two of us, it's a formality. I just need to go and get it done now. That's kind of what it is to me, at least. So yeah. My second point, what I like about the fitness industry, to counter my original point, my original negative point, I do feel like bodybuilding is very inclusive. What I find is that in football, you travel all over the country, or at least all over your region. If you're at a slightly higher level, you travel to other countries. I've never done that. I've never been to that level, but you travel all over your region. You play all these teams. Yeah. You meet all these people. There's 11 guys per team plus subs. You're talking 20 guys, potentially 15 to 20 guys, any given match. Yeah. Sometimes I played football. I played matches like 3 times a week if there was cup games. I play on a Saturday. I play on a Sunday for a different team. I play in the middle of the week for my Saturday team, for my semi-pro team at cup games. You're meeting all these people. How many people do you think I've really made contacts with that have continued on from football? None. Not teammates, not people that I've played against, nothing. On your travels, it's very rare you're going to make friends, at least in my experience and the experience that I've seen other people in my team make. I'm not the most sociable person, like I'm not the most forthcoming person to make friends, but I've definitely never had problems with making friends. You understand what I mean? So to see that, I'm thinking, cool, when I go into bodybuilding, I go in, I turn up, I win, and then I go home. You leave these bodybuilding shows with about, in my case at least, 30 to 40 new connections. People who have seen you on Instagram before, people who have seen you at the gym, people who have just seen you compete. They really like your physique. They say, hello, mate, I really like your physique. We should get a training session in together. And before you know it, you're chatting to these people on Instagram. Again, I've made friends like QE. I've made friends like Marcus Lee. I've made friends like Solomon Anola. I've made friends, obviously Opio, but I knew Opio before. That doesn't count. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to miss anybody out, but loads of people. And I speak to these people just with this podcast and another thing, like everyone I've spoken to so far, there's always conversations after the fact. Oh, do you want to come and get another session in? Let's do this, let's do that, blah, blah, blah. Let's train together, all this stuff. So you make all these connections and it's all just from us doing what we like doing. we all seem to, not all, but most of us just seem to be admirers of each other's graft. It's not about who's the best. Like you guys might not be aware. So when I first met QE and Marcus in 2019, I didn't have a best wheels trophy, and then Marcus beat me in the overall to get his pro card. So I wasn't the best in that dynamic, but we all speak exactly the same with each other. We've all been British champions. We've all won. Yes, we're all peers in some way, but there was a clear difference, at least between Marcus and me and QE. Marcus was a DFAC pro, the best pro card you can get in the UK as a natural. And me and QE were just amateurs who had won British titles. Like, there's a level there, but you don't see that. First of all, because Marcus is a great guy. And second of all, generally speaking, I just don't really see it. I don't see people winning shows and like becoming DFSC pros and acting like they're too good for anybody else. Dave Kay, such a nice guy. Nathan Williams, met him for the first time in 2022 in person. Great guy. Ben Lloyd, one of the nicest guys I've met on the circuit. Such a nice guy, so humble. I don't even know if he knows how good he actually is. Like, I told him on our podcast, if you haven't seen the last episode, the episode of me and him, go on there. He's top draw, top 3 in the UK potentially. Like, he's top draw, but he's such a nice guy. You wouldn't even think it. Like, there's no arrogance there. There's no ego there. It just is what it is. That's one thing. That's the second thing, that I really love about bodybuilding. Just people here are just so nice. The people involved in it are just so nice. We all graft. We all work hard. We all understand that we all work hard and we all graft to look how we look. It doesn't matter your place, and at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. At the end of the day, we all respect each other's grind, and real recognize real. And it is what it is what it is. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I touched on the positives of what I've found in the fitness industry / bodybuilding before signing off with like negatives. So anyway, like I said at the beginning, so I've got some questions here. I'll put out a Q&A. So on Instagram this week, a few days ago, I think, on the weekend maybe, I'm not sure, which I'm going to post. Wait, what did I say? I'm going to answer now, not post now. I'm going to answer now. So we'll start with question. How did I do these? I don't like how I did these. It doesn't matter. Right, first questions. My my hamstring locked up in the cinema. People were looking. People were staring at him. Where in public have you cramped up? So the funniest time I will say that I've cramped up in public, because I've cramped up at like family gatherings and that kind of thing. But there was one time me and Deanna were at a dinner after I trained on a Saturday. We went to get something to eat for my cheat meal or whatever, had a night out. I kid you not, my hamstring cramped so hard, I've lifted my leg, like jolted my leg up and kicked the underside of the table. Drinks fell over, everything. And then because I'm trying to stretch my hamstring out so that my hamstring releases, my quad then cramped. Bearing in mind, I train quads on Monday. So I don't even know why I cramped that hard, because I hadn't trained legs for 5 days, 6 days, 5 days. So crazy. But yeah, the drinks were everywhere. We had to get new drinks and all that kind of stuff. And I had to apologize to the people, and they cleaned up. They were well nice about it and that. But that was the most embarrassing time and the most like dramatic time. I get cramps less now because I look after my body a little bit better, and I make sure my salt intake, sodium intake, and all that kind of stuff is managed and like measured now. Whereas before I just used to eat, you know what I mean? I wasn't focused on that. So yeah, that would be my most notable. Second question. Biggest prep struggle or the thing you find toughest? So the thing I find toughest about prep is not disassociating from people around me. So I am, by all intents and purposes, a flipping warrior when it comes to prep. Yeah. I say it all the time. Opio asks me to jump, I say how high. In prep, there's no questions, there's no ego, there's no pride. You tell me what needs to be done, and I'm gonna do it. That's what it is. Yeah. Because the goal is to win, and the only way I can win is if I'm at my peak condition. That's the only way I can win. In my mind, that's the only way I can win. So when I'm like that and I'm so focused on the goal, I become a robot. I become a robot in my movements. I become a robot in my mentality. I become a robot in my emotions. Everything disassociates because the only thing that matters is that goal. Obviously, I have a wife. I have a child on the way. I have a job as well as coaching. I have a 6 till 6, as me and Opio like to call it. I have other things to think about that take brain power, that take emotional energy, and it's something that I need to manage very closely. Struggling with like my diet in terms of like appetite and cravings and that, irrelevant to me. Doesn't matter. Don't really get them. I crave more things in the off season than I do when I'm on prep. It just doesn't really affect me like that. But not going so far into my shell that my wife forgets she has a husband, that has always been my biggest struggle, because my my nature and my instinct when I'm upset, angry, frustrated, whatever, is to go quiet. Go quiet, remove myself from situations emotionally and physically, and just look after me. Yeah, that's how I am. So when I argue, you're not going to really hear me shouting. There's no threat of violence. There's no real aggression. It just isn't really me. I'm more the type to just go inward and calculate the situation and say, this isn't worth it. I'm going to walk away. So in prep, when I'm really struggling and I'm tired and I'm like, I just get real quiet. I don't really watch TV. I just disassociate. I'll just be sitting there staring at the ceiling on my bed, just meditating. That's how I am. But I forget that I have a life that is, there's a life going on around me. Prep isn't the be all and end all. My life does not revolve around prep. For the most part, yes, but there are other people in my life that care, but not as much as I care. So I need to remember that. And I'm getting better with every prep. I've obviously only done 2 competitive seasons. My first season was shit in terms of how I dealt with it. My second season was good I prepped for 36 weeks and I was good for about 28. I think the last 8 weeks, I was like, it was ropey. Some days I was basically not here. I was basically mentally just not here. But it's getting better. And hopefully the next time I go on prep, not hopefully, the next time I go on prep, because of how I've looked after my body this time, I'm leaner in the off season. I'm still heavy. I'm still big, but like I'm a lot leaner. My prep should be easier. It shouldn't be for as long. And usually with me, my first 20 weeks, you wouldn't even notice I'm prepping in terms of my demeanor. You wouldn't even notice I'm prepping. I'm just as happy and bubbly and energetic as usual, as I usually am. If you see me in the gym and stuff, obviously people who don't train with me, you're not gonna know. But when I'm in the gym and I'm a lot more bubbly before and after I train than I am on the pod or wherever. So yeah. I'd say just disassociating would be a big one for me. Where's the other question? What are your current macros? Ugh, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. At the moment, I'm flexible dieting, but I'm flexible at dieting to a point where I'm basically doing. Oh, this damn camera. I'm basically doing, I'd say 3 out of 7 days, I'm doing basically calories in versus calories out. I'm not doing if it fits your macros, and I'm not doing a strict diet at the moment. On I'm mini cutting still, and I'm going to mini cut until the end of the year. By the way, just an update. It's no longer a mini cut. I'm just going to do a cut to the end of the year so that I'm in a place for prep where my prep is obviously easy. Just for you guys who didn't know. But long story short, I don't know. I eat about 3,000 calories at the moment to cut. When I'm bulking, I'm about 3,850. So just for reference on how much I've dropped my calories, it's a lot, but like 3,000 calories is more than enough for me. I'm 5'5.5", and I'm 88 kilos at the moment. I think I haven't weighed myself in a couple of weeks because the look is better, and I don't like to obsess over the scale weight. If I look better and I can see that I look better and my performance is still good, I'm like, it's fine this week. I'll do it next week. So I'll probably weigh myself this weekend. But yeah, macros, no idea. What I aim for is a 20-30-50 split, 50% carbs, 30% protein, 20% fat. So that's what I would go for. So out of those 3,000 calories, you could probably work out yourself. Work out yourself. But that's what I would aim for if I had a structured diet every day at the moment. Next question. Who is your favorite cousin? You guys are not interested in this, but I wanted to include it because I know my cousin watches, and a lot of my family do watch this. My favorite cousins are the ones who are watching right now. That's my answer to that. And then I believe we have one more question, or two more. Two more. I'm going to answer the last question I got first because I think my second question, the second from last question, is a better talking point. So the last question I got was, will you remain natural? Yes. So for those of you who don't know, because I haven't really discussed it, I have said things from time to time, but I haven't really discussed it. My plan is to do a Tubo show or NPC show, whatever you call it. I'm not that familiar with the structure of the other federations. But my plan at some point next year is to get my IFBB Pro card at some point. I don't know what time of the year. I don't really know. Basically, my plan is to get ready composition-wise by the end of the year to be in a good place to prep. Usually, I wouldn't do that. Usually, obviously, that's really early. But I've been bulking for 2 years. I have mini cutted in that time, but I've been basically on an off season for 2 years because of the baby, hernia surgery, blah 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 blah. So I feel like I've done enough now. Anything I push more and more and more, I think I'm just creating work for myself for prep. It doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, long story short, I'm staying natural. If I get my IFBB Pro card, we'll have another conversation. I plan on staying natural for the rest of my life. I don't see why I wouldn't. I think, without being arrogant, I think with the genetics I have, with my work rate, with the way I apply myself as a bodybuilder, I think I can be dangerous for a very long time at any level in the right class if I pick the right shows. Yes, I'll have to be more strategic than I usually am at the moment. I think I always feel like I can just turn up anywhere and just win. Obviously, if I'm going against enhanced guys with genetics that are just as good as mine or better, obviously I have no chance, obviously. So I'm aware of that, but we'll see. We'll see. This is another thing. If I win my IFBB Pro card and I think this doesn't really offer me much in terms of competition because I'm not winning, I would think I would quicker just give up my pro card, give up my IFBB Pro card, and then come back to the natural scene, if I'm honest. I think I'm more likely to do that than take steroids. It just isn't on the agenda for me. It's never appealed to me. It's never appealed to me. It still doesn't sit right with me in terms of me doing it. I respect the guys who do it and the Phil Heaths and the Ronnie Colemans and all these guys who inspire me to be great. I have nothing against them. I have nothing against any of the young guys who decide to do it. As long as you're doing it in an informed way, I have no problem. But for me, for some reason, it just doesn't sit right with my spirit to imagine taking anything. I don't know. Maybe it is a little bit of ego. I just think maybe I am a bit arrogant, maybe because I've won quite a bit. I think, it doesn't matter, I'll keep winning. I don't know. But reality is going to show me, and the future is going to show me where I sit in this whole bodybuilding thing naturally, and I'll just have to make a decision then. But I'm 99.999 recurring percent sure that I'm not ever going to take anything I shouldn't. Not SARMs, not nothing. So yeah, that's my answer to that. Last question. How is your abdominal hernia at the moment? Did you have the surgery and are you still training with it? So I had my pre-op consultation. It was a telephone conversation about 2 hours ago. So it was another useless phone call. They were just basically, oh, this camera. We'll get there. We'll get there. There we go. There we go. Another useless conversation. So basically they just asked me a bunch of questions for the pre-op stuff, like do you have this illness, that illness, have you ever had this, have you had that, complications, blah 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 blah. So they have to contact me now. Then I have to go into the surgery or the hospital, wherever I'm going. I think it's going to be the main one in Reading. And then they're going to have a final conversation with me. I think they're going to take a blood test because I am from Caribbean heritage, I think is what they said. There's something to do with Caribbean, African, South American blood that may cause complications in surgery. So I got to go get a blood test. And then I think that's it. And they'll give me my date for the actual surgery. So the actual surgery should be coming soon. Obviously, the due date for our child is August 1st. So hopefully they don't clash too quickly, because I can't train around that time. I can't train for, they said 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not waiting that long. I will not train for a week, and then I'll do a very altered training program so that I can train while I recover. But yeah, hopefully, I think everything's going to kind of hit at the same time. It's going to be quite a bit. It's going to be chaotic, but we'll see. But yeah, without waffling on too long, no, I haven't had my surgery yet. Yes, I'm still training as normal, still pushing like I always have. The only thing I can't do is barbell rows, because for some reason that sparks it. But I can leg press, I can squat as heavy as I want, I can deadlift as heavy as I want, I can train everything else as much as I want to train it. Yeah, for some reason it's just that. It's just that I can't do. It's just barbell rows I can't do. I know the person who asked this question, I'm not gonna say who it was just in case they didn't want me discussing it. The same thing I said to you in the DMs after, and for anyone else who's struggling with a hernia and that kind of stuff, I think surgery is always a positive option. I struggled with it for a while, with the idea of having surgery and being off training. I spoke to Opie about it quite a lot. I spoke to Deanna about it quite a lot. I spoke to Lewis and Leon and some other guys at the gym about it quite a lot before I made my final decision on whether I was going to opt for surgery or not. Ultimately, the pros to cons, depending on the severity of the hernia, the pros to cons, it's a no-brainer. Getting the surgery, yes, you're out for 4 to 6 weeks. You're not going to lose mass amounts of tissue in 4 to 6 weeks if you keep your diet right, if you do some form of exercise and stay in shape relatively. You're not going to really suffer major consequences for it. And whatever you do lose, or whatever sort of mass you do lose, you're going to gain it just as quickly. It's not going to be a major setback for you. The longer you leave it and the worse it gets, the more of a problem it is to fix. That goes without saying for so many other ailments anyway. Follow that same logic. Get it done early. Mine is it's not a big deal. Mine's not that big a deal. I actually think I could have just left it and still competed, and it wouldn't have been a huge issue on stage. It's noticeable, but I don't think it would have affected my placings. But it's one of those things. I lift heavy, and I lift heavier than my body should allow in certain aspects. Like I said, I'm not very heavy, and I'm 5'5". I lift way over what is considered normal for someone of my weight and height. So putting my body under that level of stress, it's all fun and games, and it looks great for me to post out on Instagram to say, look how strong I am. But if I'm ruining my body along the way and not rehabbing it or repairing it when it needs repairing, there's one place I'm going, and that's early retirement. So you just got to look after yourself, man. I know it's potentially a frightening situation to be in, thinking about having to go into surgery. I know a lot of people are a bit wary of things like that. I've had the surgery before for my knee when it was football, and it is what it is. I think there's a means to an end, and I think it's definitely something that needs to be considered closely before making the decision and just doing it. But I think once you've considered it, the only thing that's going to stop you is the fear. It's not going to be any tangible reason like, oh, well, the recurrence of it happening is this high and that high. When you weigh up all the statistics, reoccurrence, if you look after yourself properly, is very low. And even if it does reoccur, it's usually a very small tear. It's not a major tear. And yeah, long story short, go for it, man. Go for it. I know you're thinking about getting the surgery and that kind of thing. I recommend you go for it. I know you're a little bit older as well than I am. I'm sure you are anyway. You're a little bit older than I am, but I think you love bodybuilding, you love training. Even if you don't want to get back on stage and you just want to be back in the gym and train hard and do what you love doing, I think it's worth doing it. It's worth doing it. Definitely do it. Make sure you consider all things. Make sure you speak to the doctors. Any question, no question's a stupid question. Ask the doctors as much as you want. Just make sure you're 100% comfortable with it before you do it. But I recommend you get it done, you get dealt with. Um, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I've been talking long enough, longer than I thought I would, considering I'm on my own. But I like to talk shit. So, thank you for watching. Those of you who lasted to the end. I know it's not as interesting when I'm on my own versus when I'm with a new face. Like I explained at the beginning, got a lot going on at the moment, a lot of exciting, positive things at the moment. Been promoted at my job. Coaching is picking up slowly. Um, Baby on the way. Just great things happening, man. So many good things happening. Whoops, so many good things happening that I'm excited for. That are going to take a lot of time. I do have one or two guests lined up already, so don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be on my own for very long. Maybe a couple more weeks, maybe. But I will have some very exciting guests back. I'm going to start messaging some people this weekend, asking if they want to come on and seeing if they're interested. So hopefully a lot more guests. But let me know if you like this format. Let me know if you like listening to me. Let me know if there's anything you want my opinion on that's happening in pop culture to do with fitness or whatever the case may be. Maybe there's something that you wanted to ask me that you want me to speak about on video. Maybe there's something you wanted to ask me that I think is a good topic to talk about on video. So whatever you want to do, just let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram. That's enough from me. See you guys next time. Cheers.